Does everything make sense now? The policeman looked at me with questioning eyes. Yes. I completely understand. I shall take it from here, Officer Jones. I tipped my hat at the policeman as he drove off the crime scene. As far as the details go, a family of 5 was brutally murdered, limbs and organs being torn apart from their places in mysterious corners. Locals talked about the house being haunted by their spirits, but that's only superstition, right? Only one way to find out if the whispers are true? I whispered to myself. The wind whispered through the trees, and the moon cast eerie shadows on the old, decrepit house. I adjusted my hat and took a deep breath before making my way up the overgrown path to the front door. The air was heavy with the stench of death, and a chill ran down my spine as I crossed the threshold. The interior of the house was even more unsettling than the exterior. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and dust-covered furniture lined the dimly lit rooms. It was as if time had frozen in this place, and the horrors of the past lingered in the air. Something is off, and not the family being murdered kind. It was like the kind of paranormal activities. I began my investigation by examining the crime scene in the living room. The walls were splattered with blood, and the furniture had been overturned in a violent struggle. The family's photographs, now covered in bloodstains, adorned the walls, capturing happier times that would never come again. As I looked around, a feeling of dread washed over me. It was as if the very walls of the house were watching me, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of the tragedy that had unfolded here. I couldn't shake the stories of locals, warning me about the malevolent spirits that haunted this place. Does everything make sense now? I whipped my head around as I heard someone whisper next to my ear, shivers running down my spine. "Who are you?" I yelled out, hoping that it was all in my imagination. However, I could hear a sinister laugh from the kitchen, as if it was waiting for me. My gut told me to not walk towards it, not yet. I moved from room to room, searching for any clue that might shed light on what had happened. But the further I delved into the house, the stronger the feeling of being watched became. Whispers filled the air, soft and indistinct, like the murmurs of restless souls. In the bedroom, I found a child's toy, a teddy bear, sitting on the blood-soaked sheets of a small bed. The sight sent shivers down my spine. I knew I had to uncover the truth, not only for the sake of justice but also to put an end to the torment that seemed to envelop this house. As I delved deeper into my investigation, the dimly lit room seemed to close in around me, the weight of history pressing down on my shoulders. The hours slipped away unnoticed as I meticulously pored over faded documents, tattered journals, and fragile letters that held the secrets of generations. Each page turned unveiled another layer of the family's intricate tapestry, and as the clock's hands moved relentlessly, the puzzle of their lives began to take shape with increasing clarity. The family I was researching had, at one point, radiated warmth and love, evident in the heartfelt correspondence I uncovered. The letters exchanged between siblings painted vivid portraits of shared laughter, dreams, and the bond that only close-knit families could understand. Yet, as I pieced together the scattered fragments of their existence, I couldn't help but sense a gradual unraveling, like a delicate thread fraying over time. It became apparent that their idyllic life had been marred by a relentless series of unfortunate events, each one more devastating than the last. The family's resilience was tested to the breaking point as they faced financial hardships, personal tragedies, and unexpected challenges. Through their words and experiences, I witnessed the gradual transformation of their once harmonious existence into a chaotic tapestry, where threads of despair wove themselves into the fabric of their lives. The culmination of these hardships led to a haunting and horrific end, a conclusion that seemed inescapable as I uncovered the final pieces of the puzzle. The fates of the family members were sealed by a cruel twist of destiny, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and unanswered questions. My investigation, now well into the night, had uncovered not just the facts and figures of their history, but the emotional depths and complexities of their human experience, making their story all the more profound and tragic. As the hours passed, the whispers grew louder, and the air grew colder. I couldn't deny the presence of something unnatural, something that defied all logic. The spirits of the murdered family were trapped here, their anger and anguish manifesting in the eerie phenomena that plagued the house. I could feel their desperation, their need for someone to uncover the truth and set their souls free. With each passing moment, the weight of their suffering pressed down on me, urging me to unravel the mystery. The spirits grew more agitated, their manifestations becoming more violent. Objects moved on their own, and the shadows seemed to come alive, reaching out to me in a malevolent embrace. Finally, the final piece of the puzzle came to light in the basement, where I discovered a hidden room. Inside, I found a journal belonging to one of the family members. It detailed the terrible events that had led to their deaths and the darkness that had taken hold of the house. As I read the last entry, a deafening wail echoed through the house, and a chilling wind rushed through the room. The spirits of the family materialized before me, their faces contorted in pain and anger. They wanted justice, and they wanted release. With the truth now in my possession, I knew what I had to do. I would bring their story to light, expose the darkness that had consumed them, and help them find the peace they had longed for. But as I made my way out of the house, I couldn't escape the feeling that the spirits were still watching, still waiting for me to fulfill my promise. Story 2. Me and my friends, Jacob and Alana, decided to go to this haunted house near the block. It was an abandoned insane asylum that still held the souls of the dead. Everyone who went there mentioned paranormal activities going around, such as wheelchairs moving on their own or shadowed figures moving across the walls. If we were lucky enough, we could have the ghosts appear right in front of us. "I don't like this," Jacob cried out, his voice trembling with anxiety. "Oh, stop being a baby," Alana laughed out loud. "Come on, it'll be fun." I was caught in the middle of their contrasting reactions, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. The asylum's legends had piqued our curiosity, and we couldn't resist the temptation to explore it, even though we knew the stories were disturbing. We had packed flashlights, snacks, and a camera to document our adventure, thinking it would be an evening of thrills and chills. As we approached the crumbling entrance of the asylum, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, and the air was heavy with an eerie silence that pressed against my chest. The asylum loomed before us, a decaying monstrosity, its shattered windows and crumbling walls a testament to the horrors that had transpired within. We stepped over a threshold into a world where the normal laws of reality seemed to blur. The first thing we noticed was the chilling cold that penetrated our clothes and sent shivers down our spines. The building seemed to breathe, its echoing moans filling the air as we cautiously ventured further inside. The flashlight beams cut through the darkness, revealing peeling paint and rusted hospital beds. The asylum had been abandoned for decades, but it felt as though time had stood still within these walls. The remnants of shackles, restraints, and padded cells told a grim tale of the suffering endured by the residents. As we explored deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the unease in Jacob's voice grew more pronounced. "Guys, I really don't like this. We should go back," he pleaded. Alana, however, was undeterred. "Come on, Jacob. We've come this far. Let's see if there's anything to these stories." Suddenly something rolled in the distance. "Did you guys hear that?" I whispered to the two. We walked further to check out what possibly could be the sounds. To my horror, we found a wheelchair lying on the ground. Wherever the entity was, it was following our footsteps very closely. But as the minutes turned into hours, the asylum seemed to come alive with malevolent intent. Doors creaked open and shut of their own accord, and eerie whispers echoed through the hallways. Our flashlights flickered, casting unsettling shadows that danced across the walls. "Something doesn't feel right," I admitted, my voice quavering. That's when we heard it, a blood-curdling scream, echoing from the depths of the asylum. Panic gripped us, and we began to run, trying to retrace our steps and find the way out. But the building had other plans. Its layout shifted and changed, leading us in circles and deeper into its nightmarish heart. The malevolent entity that resided within the asylum was no longer content to merely play tricks on us. It pursued us relentlessly, lurking in the shadows, manifesting as grotesque apparitions that sent us screaming in terror. Our flashlights died one by one, leaving us in total darkness. "We have to stick together," Ilana shouted as we stumbled through the ever-changing maze. But no matter how we tried to stay close, it felt as though an invisible force was pulling us apart. Our screams and pleas for help became distorted in the ghostly atmosphere, and it seemed that we were no longer in control of our own movements. As the asylum's insidious entity closed in, the walls themselves seemed to conspire against us, trapping us in a nightmarish reality from which there was no escape. The horrifying truth dawned on us: all the stories, all the legends were real, and we were now at the mercy of the vengeful spirits that haunted this forsaken place. The insane asylum had become our own personal hell, and the entity that pursued us was intent on making us pay for daring to enter its realm. Story 3. I was playing ball with my little sister, trying to cheer her up as our parents continued fighting inside the kitchen. It's been really rough these days, their arguments becoming more frequent and more aggressive. As any nice brother would, I tried to distract her as best as I could from the hatred. Suddenly, she kicked the ball too hard, and it rolled towards the neighbor's house. "Oh no!" I whispered. If it was anyone else's house, I would have gone straight to the person's house to ask for the ball back. However, everyone, including my parents, always said to never go next door and to never bother the old ghost that grieves for his mother. I mess up everything. Now Mom and Dad will scream at me for losing the ball again, my sister cried out, tears falling heavily down her cheeks. Hey, I called out to her, "I'll get you your ball back, okay? I promise." As petrified as I was ready to do anything for my sister. With a sense of dread gnawing at the pit of my stomach, I began to make my way to the neighbor's house. The old, dilapidated structure had always loomed ominously on the street, an unsettling presence that no one dared to approach. The rumors surrounding our mysterious neighbor were as old as the house itself. People said that he was a recluse, rarely seen in the daylight, and that he grieved endlessly for his deceased mother. But it was the ghostly tales that sent shivers down our spines, the sightings of strange, ethereal figures in the windows, eerie wails in the dead of night, and the unsettling feeling that someone was always watching. As I approached the house, its eerie silence seemed to envelop me, and a sudden chill ran down my spine. I hesitated for a moment, my hand trembling as I reached for the rusty doorknob. The door creaked open, and the air inside felt heavy with an oppressive sense of sorrow. The interior of the house was a time capsule of the past, with faded, dusty furniture and long-forgotten memories. The dim light that filtered through the tattered curtains created eerie patterns on the walls, and the air was filled with the musty scent of neglect. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone there? We lost our ball, and I just wanted to get it back." The only response I received was a mournful wail, a sound that seemed to echo through the walls, chilling me to the bone. It felt as if the very walls of the house were weeping for a long-lost soul. Trepidation gnawed at me as I moved further into the dimly lit house, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, and the shadows seemed to twist and elongate in sinister shapes. My senses were on high alert, and every creaking floorboard and whispered sigh felt like a sinister presence drawing nearer. And then, I saw it, a spectral figure, hunched and withered, standing in the corner of the room. Its hollow eyes stared right through me, and a shiver ran down my spine as I realized that this was the old man people had spoken of. I grabbed the ball and turned to leave, but the moment I stepped outside, a deafening scream pierced the air. It was my sister, standing at the front door of our own house, her face contorted in terror. My sister's terrified screams echoed through the quiet suburban street, causing a few concerned neighbors to peer out of their windows. As I rushed to her side, her wide-eyed gaze was fixed on our own home, which now seemed enveloped in an eerie, dark aura. I grabbed her trembling hand and asked, "What happened? What's wrong?" Her voice quivered as she stuttered, "It was the ghost. It followed you home." I turned to look back at the neighbor's house, and there, in the entranceway, the old man's ghostly figure stood, glaring at us malevolently. My heart raced as the realization struck that the spirit had crossed the threshold from his haunted abode into our world, bringing with it a chilling sense of dread. We retreated further from the house, and the once familiar surroundings now felt alien and unsettling. The angry shouting and fighting within our home had ceased, replaced by an oppressive silence. Fear gripped the entire neighborhood as the spectral presence expanded its malevolent influence. We decided to seek refuge at a neighbor's house and called our parents to tell them about the terrifying events that had unfolded. Their anger and disagreement had been forgotten in the face of a much greater threat, and they urged us to stay away from our home until they could find a solution. As the hours passed, our small group of concerned neighbors gathered together, sharing their own eerie experiences with the haunted house next door. They spoke of strange shadows that had followed them, chilling drafts of air on even the warmest days, and bizarre apparitions that appeared in the middle of the night. It became clear that the old man's restless spirit had long tormented our community. With a mixture of fear and determination, we decided to confront the malevolent entity. Armed with sage, salt, and an old book on spiritual protection, we ventured back into the cursed house, hoping to find a way to put the spirit to rest. The encounter with the vengeful apparition was fraught with terror and tension. We chanted incantations and performed rituals as we encountered the spirit's angry presence, but the old man's ghost resisted, manifesting in increasingly menacing forms. It was a battle of wills between the living and the dead, a fight to reclaim our home and release the spirit from its torment. In the end, the combined strength of our collective resolve and the power of the rituals weakened the ghost's grip on our world. With a final, heart-rending cry, the spirit dissipated, and the house regained a sense of tranquility that had been absent for decades.